Our lives are powered by electricity. When we talk to friends, listen to our favourite tunes, travel to work, have a cosy night in with a hot cuppa. Electricity helps us do all the things we love. And as the world moves forward, we're only ever going to need more. And this makes the UK's aims of becoming net zero even more challenging. So how does all this energy get to our homes and businesses to help power our lives? Where does it come from? And what's being changed to make sure our energy supply is cleaner and greener? I'm James, and I'm on a journey with National Grid to find out just how our electricity transmission system works. From all the way out here by the sea to here in our sockets. So come and join me as I venture behind the grid. My first stop brings me all the way to the coast of the Netherlands. The Netherlands? I hear you say, that's not in the UK. And you'd be right. But the Netherlands and many other European countries play an integral role in our electricity grid. So I've come here to the beaches of Rotterdam, and over there is the UK. Now between us and them, there's a cable that runs under the North Sea, which I think is called an interconnector. But we're going to find out why it's called that and just how it works. I'm on my way to meet a couple of very important people. Tommy, who works on the BritNed Interconnector, that's the thing that connects our electricity grid to the grid in the Netherlands, and Matt, who works for National Grid and spends a lot of time in Europe doing some very important work.
Hi, good morning.
Tommy?
Yes, I'm Tommy.
Nice
Welcome.
to meet you.
Nice
Can I
to
come
meet
in?
you. Come in.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. This is the operator room.
This looks, Tommy, very complicated. Like a space station.
So here's the operator desk with all the computers where we can see an overview of the complete site with all the switches and the alarms and the events.
So what happens in here? This is kind of where you oversee
Everything what's happening on the interconnector. Yeah.
Oh, you said a word there that I'm intrigued by, interconnector.
An interconnector is a connection between two countries.
So that interconnector links what we're doing here in Rotterdam to what we're doing back in the UK.
Yeah.
That's the purpose
Exactly. Yeah, we have two converter stations and then of course 260 kilometers of cable through the North Sea.
So an interconnector is a high voltage cable that allows us to transfer electricity where there is an abundance to where there is scarcity of electricity.
When you say interconnector, is it literally, it can go one way and then go back again?
Yeah, subsea interconnectors are large, high voltage direct current cables under the sea. They're fundamentally about flexibility. They connect to converter stations like this one at BritNed on each side, and then that connects into the wider grid in each country. And yeah, they can flip direction at, flip of a switch.
It's one of these computers behind me, I think, that literally does that.
Yes, exactly.
And how much power goes through that interconnector every day?
1,000 megawatts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really intrigued. I want to get into the space station. Would you mind explaining to me kind of what's going on these monitors?
This is the human machine interface, the HMI, where we have an overview of the complete site and all the switches that we can use and the complete link. You can see it here.
Have you got a favourite switch?
A favorite switch?
The big red button is the one.
No, don't touch it. No.
And then this one is...
So the power flow now at the moment is going from grain to the Maasvlakte. That can change every hour, how much power is going over the link and of course the direction.
So Matt, you've got a pretty interesting job title.
So I'm head of European Affairs for National Grid, and I lead our Brussels office. So really what I do is try and facilitate good cooperation between us and our European partners, particularly for National Grid Ventures. That's absolutely essential because obviously we own the UK's interconnector fleet between Britain and Europe, including this marvellous piece of engineering in BritNed.
You mentioned NGV. For those that maybe haven't heard of that before, what is that, and how does that fit into the National Grid kind of as a whole?
So National Grid is kind of fairly equally split between the UK and the US. And in the UK, we have a regulated business which owns the electricity transmission system across the country. National Grid Ventures is our non-regulated business. So working in the UK, in the US, where we have a lot of offshore wind and renewables generation, and in the UK, where we have the Isle of Grain LNG terminal, but also the interconnector business. And that's 7.8 gigawatts of interconnection with Europe, interconnectors with Belgium, the Netherlands, 2 with France, Norway and Denmark.
Welcome.
After you.
Here's the DC hall.
Thank you.
Go in.
Wow, Tommy.
Yeah.
The DC hall.
The DC hall.
It's as good as you said it was going to be. It's pretty impressive, huh?
Yeah. So here's the power is coming in from the UK or going out to the UK.
So it comes into the interconnector, into here,
Yep.
and then back again.
Exactly.
Wow.
So here we have all the DC switchgear. And on the other side of the wall, there is the actual converter. Yeah,
Wow.
where it's converted from AC to DC or from DC to AC.
It's pretty clever.
Yeah.
And what's the just behind the big one? The sort
That
of
big
drum?
one, that is a smoothing reactor.
Smoothing reactor.
Yeah, to make it smoother, the DC.
You make everything sound so exciting. And is this on all the time?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Always, yeah. Only during maintenance, then it's off, of course. Then we can do our things and going up.
So do you have to sometimes go up? And
Yeah, of course, yeah.
how do you maintain it? Like, do you have to clean it?
Clean it,
A vacuum?
see if the contacts are still okay or everything, yeah.
And I'm intrigued, there's a section that's cordoned off here. Is there something exciting in there?
In the duct, there's the cable, the actual cable to the UK.
I need to see the cable.
I'm
Please.
going to show you, come on.
Please. So the cable is the thing that goes underneath the sea
Yeah.
from the UK to here.
Yeah.
That's what brings the current.
260 kilometers.
260 kilometers.
So here you can see the cable, and if you follow it, then you will be in the UK.
That way?
Yeah.
And all of this basically comes down, without this cable,
Yeah.
none
so
of this.
this is only one cable, and we have exactly the same cable and hull on the other side. This is pole 1, the other side is pole 2, with the second cable. It's DC, so it's a plus and a minus cable.
And this goes back and forth from the UK to here.
Exactly.
What's it made of?
It's made of copper, but actually I have an example indoors and I can show you.
I need to see the cable, Tommy.
Come on, I'll show you that.
So what I'm really interested in is that kind of transition to clean energy, and how important is NGV in that kind of situation?
It's very important, and I think it's very specifically about, in the UK, our interconnectors business. One of the things about the energy transition, obviously, is it's about electrification. It's increasing the amount of electricity in the system, potentially up to 60, 70, 80% of fuel, perhaps beyond that. And one of the things about that is we're going to be building a lot of renewable generation, and renewable generation is variable. So sometimes the wind blows strongly, sometimes the sun's shining, sometimes it doesn't. We need to be able to kind of balance out the power sometimes. And one of the great things about interconnection is it means that we're fundamentally connected to our neighbours. So when we have an abundance of electricity, the sun's shining strongly, the wind's blowing strongly, we can export that to our neighbours, where the prices are perhaps higher because there's less generation, and vice versa. And that's really one of the great things about that from a UK perspective is, bizarrely, the change in the time difference between the UK and Europe. So,
Simple as that?
Well, there's an hour difference between us and France. So when 6 p.m. people are putting on their dinner, in France it's 7 p.m. and some of that peak will have already moved on.
So actually working cooperatively with our neighbours is pretty crucial for this.
It's absolutely essential. And actually, ever since we started building out renewable generation in the system, we've always known this. When you have areas like, for example, with Norway, we get a lot of hydropower. When it's not windy and not sunny in the UK, we can bring across our North Sea Link interconnector power from Norway. But when it's sunny and windy in the UK, we can export cheaper power for Norway to use.
So I guess each place kind of uses its strength geographically,
exactly.
and we can share and share alike.
The energy transition really is it's a very regional thing.
Yeah.
Difficult to do by yourself.
So here's the cable.
Wow. Tommy, the infamous cable, we're finally here.
Yes.
So talk me through it. There's so many different layers to this. More than I thought there was going to be.
Yeah, I can tell you something about it. So this is the copper core, 1400 square millimeters. Paper layer soiled in oil.
Paper, like?
For the insulation.
Paper, like?
Yeah, just paper. Yeah.
Wow.
And then you have a lead layer and rubber to keep it waterproof. And then a steel layer to protect it from anchors or whatever we have in the sea. And then we have also 2 fiber optics in it. That's for communication.
And this is the kind of the star of the show, right? Apart from you, Tommy, obviously. But, so without this, this all wouldn't be possible, really.
Exactly, yeah.
So how far underwater are these things?
Well, the North Sea is at the deepest point around 50 meters.
Wow.
So, and it is buried in the sand. So around a meter in the sand.
I'm guessing these have quite a big part to play in how they
Yeah.
How do you put a cable in the sea that far down?
Well, it's coming off this ship, and it's going automatically to the bottom of the sea, of course, and then it's buried there in the sea.
So do they kind of like snake around and drop the cables like that?
It's not a really straight way, but yeah.
So they have like a GPS and they plot the route
Exactly.
of where the cables go.
Yeah.
So I've seen the cable. I need to see now how it gets converted from AC to DC.
Yeah.
Is there a place that happens?
That's in the converter hall.
Yes.
Yeah. We can't go in there actually because it's live, but we can have a look through the window so I can show you.
Everything you say gets more exciting. Converter hall, it just sounds fun.
Come on, we go up and I'll show you. We go up.
Up, oh.
Yeah.
We're going up.
So we've been doing this in the UK for about 30 years. We built the first interconnector France-Angleterre, IFA, in 1986. We built BritNed in 2009 here. Following that, we built Nemo Link in Belgium to the UK, and then IFA 2 to France, North Sea Link to Norway, and Viking Link, our latest interconnector to Denmark.
And is this something we're going to see more of in the future? Is this just here to stay?
We think this is a fundamental part of the energy transition. So take the North Sea, for example. The potential of the North Sea for clean power generation is enormous. At the moment, it's one of the great things about Britain and Europe, actually, is we've really led the world in offshore wind technology. At the moment in the UK, we've got about 14 gigawatts, but we've got a target of 50 gigawatts for 2030.
Wow.
Europe overall has a target of about 120 gigawatts. Now, theoretically, that's enough to power 120 million homes. By 2050, we want to build 300 gigawatts in the North Sea, and that's fundamental to Europe and the UK's ability to decarbonise, but also to maintain our security of supply. It means that we have enough supply when the demand is there for it.
I see, and therefore the cost in the households doesn't fluctuate.
Exactly, yeah. And it's partially about cost, but it's also partially about ensuring that when you switch the light on, the electricity's there.
So this way, to the window of the converter hall. So this is it.
I'm scared to get too close.
No, you can't go through the window.
So what's happening in here, Tommy? This is totally live, is it?
So here is the conversion of AC to DC or from DC to AC. Yeah.
This is where the magic happens.
Well, this is actually the same as your power plug of your phone, only a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger.
What do you mean? Like, as in?
Well, you have this block, of course, for your phone,
Yeah.
what you put in your power socket. And this block is exactly the same as what's happening here.
Oh, it does the same job.
Yeah, only for high voltage.
Only for the entirety of a country.
Something like that, yeah.
I can
It's
hear
impossible.
it. I can hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it, yeah.
It's so loud.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in there? No.
I've been there, yeah, during maintenance when it was off.
What would happen if I went in there?
When it's live?
Yeah.
Well, first you will start to shiver and then finally you will explode. No. You wouldn't survive. No, it's impossible to go in there when it's live.
Be fair to say, up until recently, the electricity grid hasn't been the priority in terms of public discussion. I think that's changing, both in Britain and Europe. But you know, it's what one of my colleagues in Brussels says: there is no energy transition without energy transmission.
Oh, I like
And
that.
I think the same thing absolutely applies to interconnection.
I feel like you should get that on a t-shirt somewhere. So Matt, a lot of people talk about the North Sea as a kind of this battleground for energy that's so important in this shift. What happens in there that gives us this clean energy?
The North Sea is a fantastic asset for northwestern Europe, for the UK, because it's shallow and it's windy. So you can fit a lot of infrastructure there, and you can connect it to the industrial regions and the population regions around the edge of it. The potential is enormous. If you look at kind of peak demand in the UK at the moment, it's around 53 gigawatts. But we're aiming to put 50 gigawatts of offshore wind in the North Sea by 2030, and certainly more than that by 2050. At certain points, when the wind is blowing, we'll have a lot of excess power to export into the rest of Europe, which is, you know, good for us, good for the economy, good for bills. The challenge for us is this is an enormous amount of infrastructure. So we need to do this in the most efficient way possible. So far, we've built out wind farms via radial connections. So you build your wind farm in the sea, one line back onto the onshore grid, and we have point-to-point interconnectors like BritNed. The next technology that we're looking at is something called offshore hybrid assets. And those are wind farms that are connected to interconnectors in the sea. So a line from the British coast to a wind farm to the neighbouring country's coast. And that enables us to use the electrons as efficiently as possible. It enables us to reduce the amount of infrastructure in the sea, to reduce the number of landing points on shore. And that's kind of the next phase, the second phase of the North Sea. And then a lot of people think the third phase will be a fully meshed offshore grid with multiple wind farms right in the middle of the sea, connected to multiple countries. So we can use the electricity when it's needed and where it's needed.
So it's not within the realms of impossibility that the entirety of the UK could at some point in the near future, in theory, be powered just by wind offshore
Well,
energy?
I mean, we're getting pretty close to that already. And there have been periods of time over the last couple of years where, you know, the majority of the electricity system has been powered by offshore wind, solar, onshore wind.
That's pretty exciting.
It is.
And you guys are right at the forefront of that.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
decarbonisation, green energy.
Absolutely.
And does it make you kind of proud to be doing that? Something
Yep.
that's so important for the next few
Yep.
generations, for our generation.
It's what gets me out of bed in the mornings.
This is your kingdom, Tommy.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive, huh?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. So this is the AC yard.
Wow.
So yeah, up here you see the TenneT connection.
Yeah.
So the overhead lines to TenneT, to the TenneT grid. It's coming down here on our switch gear. And then up here we have the bus bar.
And how much power comes through all of this?
Yeah, 1,000 megawatts.
And that's enough for what, like a city?
Yeah, a big city like Rotterdam.
So
yeah.
this powers Rotterdam,
Yeah.
basically?
Yeah.
Wow. Let me get my geography right. So TenneT is like the kind of Dutch national grid.
Exactly.
Comes in AC,
Yeah.
goes through the converter,
Exactly.
goes back DC,
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it?
Through the interconnector, through the UK.
and then back to the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a kind of electricity highway.
Exactly.
I passed my test.
It takes years to build these, from conception to planning to cable laying to testing to building the converter stations like we're in at the moment.
Yeah, but it's short-term, well, it's a pain, but for massively long-term gain.
Yes, these systems will be in place for a long time, and as I say, when we reach net zero in 2050, places like this will be fundamental to that journey.
You said when, not if. So it's
Yep.
going to happen?
Well, we've got to. If you look at renewable energy, the way that the costs have come down in the last 10 years, the way that efficiency has improved, the way that the technology is advancing, I'm confident that renewable energy has a very important role going forwards.
Without the interconnections, that wouldn't be such a realistic target, I guess.
Without interconnection and without being able to draw on the help and the support of our neighbours and for us to contribute our generation when we've got abundance, it would be more expensive and more difficult.
So Matt, are you hopeful for the future and what lies ahead in this transition to clean energy?
Yes, I am. I think humans are, for all of our flaws, we are a very innovative species, and I think we can find the solutions to these things, but we have to be able to work together.
So that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, my friend, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Everything's still on?
We're still on. We're
Great.
still live.
Nothing's broken.
Nothing.
I'll say goodbye.
Greetings to my colleagues on the other end.
Oh yeah, I'll tell him you said hi.
Bye bye.
Well, so that's it. We've seen everything on this side of the BritNed interconnector. Let's go and see what's on the other side. Come on. Right, so you've seen what happens on the Dutch side of the interconnector. That's somewhere way over there. Now it's time back on home soil to find out what happens on the UK side of the interconnector, which I think is over here. So let's go, let's have a look. Come on. Hey, Stuart.
Welcome, James.
Nice to see you,
Welcome
mate.
to BritNed.
Wow.
After you.
Thank you. I have a silly question for you. Bear with me. My physics has escaped me. Why do we have to convert something from AC to DC? Like, what does that actually mean?
One is direct current and the other is alternating current. We use alternating current on the main transmission network, which is all the pylons that you can see.
Okay.
We transmit direct current, and the main two reasons for that is, one, we're connecting to another country. It's another power system being operated in a different way, and we need to be able to synchronise to that in a different way. We do it using direct current. And the second thing is, we're going 260 kilometres, and there's various technical reasons and efficiency reasons that you transmit electricity at direct current rather than alternating current.
And there was me thinking it was just a band, AC/DC.
So this tells us how we're configured in terms of what our power system is looking like.
Wow, okay.
We've got the 260 kilometres of cable
Yeah.
between here and the Netherlands. We can see what boats are close to us, and then we can see the important part, how many megawatts we're flowing. So right now we're bringing 340 megawatts of very likely green electricity from solar panels in the Netherlands all the way into the UK. and that's the things that's currently heating, lighting our homes, hospitals in the UK.
Yeah, you mentioned kind of green energy. Obviously, what you're doing here and what we're doing here is such a big part of the UK's transition to renewable energy.
I've worked in the industry for 19 years. I can remember when a wind farm was 10 megawatts and we were burning coal, gas, everything else. Today, we'll have very limited coal gas. And one of the main reasons for that is not just how we've transitioned to green energy, but it's the infrastructure that enables it. So everything that's here, everything that's around the rest of the country, we've got another 4 or 5 of these interconnectors doing the same job to other countries, and they're enabling that transition.
I want to talk to you about your colleagues in Rotterdam, on the other side of the interconnector. How closely are you guys working? I mean, is there a WhatsApp group, are there daily team meetings? Is it a sort of constant back and forth?
Yeah, so I mean, it varies depending on what team you work. So Ben, who is the operator on here today and is looking after our control operations, that's 24/7, and we'll be in pretty much constant contact with them. Potentially sometimes even getting them out of their bed to go and have a look at something that we might want them to do in Rotterdam.
I shouldn't ask you this probably. What happens if something goes wrong?
We have really highly trained, skilled operators like Ben and Rob who are on today, and they're trained to the point where they know exactly what to do.
It's an incredibly complicated system.
Yeah.
The more that happens automatically, the best, because the computers will make far faster decisions than us, but they can only make decisions based on the logic that's programmed into them. If anything out of the ordinary occurs, that's where we step in and start making decisions as to whether or not we need to either let it ride or actually step in ourselves and manually intervene.
Like a plane, like an autopilot. What is your favourite thing about all this? Is it feeling like you live on a space station? Is that the best? Because that's what I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying the fact you can see every boat in the North Sea just floating around over the cable.
Like I said earlier, it gives you access to a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't know exists, a lot of people will never have access to in their lives. If you've got a technical mind, it's very enjoyable.
So Andrew, where are we now? What happens here?
So at the moment we are in the AC yard in the BritNed converter station. So this is where our connection to the main national grid network occurs. At the far end of the site we have our 6 cable CNNs which connect us into Grain 400 kV substation. And that's our main route into the UK network. At this moment in time we are flowing from NL to the UK, so it's coming in via our DC cable, through our converters and out into our AC yard onto the grid
And then
to fill the demand.
back out to power people's homes?
Yeah.
Literally from here to
From
people's
here, yeah.
houses? That's pretty cool. Does that kind of blow your mind sometimes?
It is a strange concept that we are transmitting across such a long distance from another country, but it's becoming more and more of a standard now as more and more interconnectors are being built.
I can now hear it. Can we go in there?
Yes, we can go into the AC yard.
Just this way?
Yeah, we'll go across there.
All right. So we've been that side. What happens on this side of the AC?
So this end of the AC yard is where our 6 cables, these are the connection to the Grain substation, which is the main connection to the grid.
Talk about Grain, because we're on Grain Island.
Correct, yes.
I'm from the UK, never heard of it before. what is this place?
The area itself is majority marshland.
Yeah.
So there's not many buildings out here apart from industry-wise. We've obviously set up shop here. It's almost becoming its own little energy island.
Energy Island. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's the thing I've taken home from this experience is that something as mundane and silly as just flicking a switch, you realise it all kind of stems from what's going on here. I mean, that's kind of mind-blowing.
Yep, absolutely, and it's, also we just flip bigger switches, that's the way I think about it. We've got bigger wires, everything here. Whenever I talk to school kids about, how exciting what we do is, it's what you've got in your house.
Yeah.
We've just got bigger stuff, and if our bigger stuff's not working, your smaller stuff isn't working, and your lights aren't coming on. But I certainly don't take for granted every time I turn my light on. I know how much work goes into this.
What's the nuances of working on a marshland? Does that come with any challenges at all?
So the main challenges of it being on a marshland was when the site was built.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the ground being as subsidable to what it is, it moves. So the entire site itself is built on piles to allow it to stay where it needs to be. So I think the average piling depth is about 35 metres.
Wow.
So all the equipment in the AC yard, the main building, some of the roadways are all piled to allow us to build here.
You wouldn't necessarily expect to find wildlife on Energy Island.
There's quite a lot of natural wildlife around here in the sense of, owls, birds of prey, newts, badgers, foxes, the sort of standard you'd expect to find in a marshland. It's stayed even though the industry is built up around it. As you have noted, we do have our new local residents which have joined us, which have been introduced by local farmers to the area. Yeah, it's not a very well-known little island, if I'm
No.
honest.
you quite like that?
There's not a lot going on here.
Secret.
It is quiet, it's just nice. But majority is the industry, so it's become quite a large industrial area with us, power stations, LNG, the ports, etc. So
Give me my geography. What's what way? So London,
good question. London is roughly in that direction.
quite far? Hour and a half?
Yeah, probably about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes in that direction. Our nearest sort of main sort of city almost is Rochester.
Yeah.
We got Rochester, Chatham, etc. They're all sort of in that direction. There is a village on the far end of the island, a grain village. It's not a large village, but there's a few people that live there. Majority of them do tend to work on the island.
I couldn't come here and not ask you about a pylon, could I? That would be rude not to. Where do these ones go?
The pylons that you see leading out here are the ones which lead us to our main connection off the island into the rest of the national grid network of the UK.
So that takes us into the towns
Yes.
and cities
Takes
of the
into
United
towns and
Kingdom.
cities. So you've got 2 circuits that lead out of here, and they lead into elsewhere in the country.
So is that technically the first pylon?
Technically the first pylon from the grain substation out.
What is the thing that you enjoy most about this? What do you love about this place?
I mean, there's probably 2 things. I think I'd be remiss of me not to say the people. I think I've been here 19 years and I've had so much support from the start of my career, and hopefully I'm going on and passing that down because I think that's important. And secondly, just the strong sense of purpose. You know, as I say, what we do here today is, one, really important for net zero, but secondly, it's massive important for the country in terms of keeping the lights on, keeping hospitals lit, heated, our homes. So that really strong sense of purpose as well.
So from here, on the Kent coast, electricity runs back and forth to Rotterdam via cables under the sea. And this is just one of many interconnectors that are operational or that will be soon. And the best thing about all of this is it makes us less reliant on fossil fuels, while securing our electricity supply for the foreseeable future. Right, I guess we should find out how it gets from here on the coast to, well, other parts of the country. This way, follow the pylons.